All right, Pete, we're not at the Red Door.
No, we're not at the Red Door. Red Door closed March 8th, 2020, and after 31 years, and then the governor shut everything down March 16th. I am the luckiest former restaurateur in the city in many ways.
Why'd you choose this spot?
Well, I have a lot of businesses, so currently I'm the executive director of the Fremont Chamber of Commerce. So I represent a lot of businesses along this corridor and support them. And we've had a lot of issues around public safety for their employees, for their businesses, for their guests who are coming to their businesses. And this triangle in itself has been a real hot button area. We're still seeing issues over my shoulder, a lot of violence in the night times, people ODing, fires, all kinds of uncivil activity.
Since you've been so actively involved, I mean, have these people been offered shelter? Have they been offered services?
Well, I know I've gone out with the street level program with the Salvation Army, and we always offer services and opportunities for all kinds of help. A lot of these folks refuse it, and it's really hard because they're in a really bad space. I mean, most of these folks who are living in these tents and in these RVs really do need as much of our compassion and services as we can provide. But there are, usually on every block front, a tent or two or an RV or van where those folks aren't in crisis, but they're perpetrating the crimes on our unhoused neighbors, our most vulnerable. And those are the folks I think we really have to put our attention to and go after. You know, fentanyl is not like anything else that we've seen in our community. It is a poison that is killing so many of our neighbors. Our young students, we're seeing it affect in all types of our community, and we have to be a lot more focused on it.
So what is the city not doing here that you would do differently if elected?
Well, they allowed it to get to a point where we had businesses right on this stretch close. You know, right behind me was where the 7-Eleven with a gas station and a 24-hour Jack in the Box was. You can feel what you want about quick service or fast food, but that was a thriving business. It's on a transportation and freight corridor. It's around a lot of businesses that work 24 hours, and so they were really successful. But the amount of crime that happened right around them got so much that they actually closed their business. Then the city had the audacity to go to the landlords and say, oh, you have to do a better job of protecting your business because it's not safe anymore. Because we were allowing for folks to break in. They stole every piece of copper out of that building and the building right next to it. So even if a business wants to come back in, the hundreds of thousands of dollars we're going to have to put just to bring that building back up to legal code, and that is not the business's fault. That's the city. That rests with us for allowing for that behavior to happen in our community.
So one could make the argument this is related to the homelessness crisis, which continues to be the top issue for voters in this city, no matter where you are in this city. Others would say this is the drug epidemic, this is the fentanyl crisis here. So you've seen how this has played out over the last 4 years.
Yeah.
If you're elected, I mean, what's the big idea to change this trajectory?
Well, you're right, it's yes and, it's both of those issues. And as I said, we really need to have an honest conversation about what's happening in our community. The fact that we are allowing these folks to be preyed upon, if not daily, sometimes hourly, forced into sex work, forced into continuing their addiction cycle. You know, fentanyl is so inexpensive now. On the street level, it can be as cheap as $2 to 50 cents. The high could last as little as 20 minutes. So these people are constantly in this cycle. It's really hard to get them to see their way through that fog and those claws of addiction to receive the help. So our job is to give them some space to really start going after the folks who are perpetrating on them daily.
So Fremont Chamber, small business owner, how does that prepare you for dealing with multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar budgets at the city?
Well, I've actually run a business. Actually having to hire, train, recruit, and sometimes even let folks go is an important skill to have. Being able to work within a budget I think we have a responsibility to make sure that the voting public, that we're using their resources as wisely as we can, that we are judicious with that, and that we aren't so cavalier. I do not think that this is not the time to be asking the voters for more money. We're in really strained economic times, but we've been giving a lot, and we are a compassionate community, which we should be very proud of, and we're a progressive community. Those values are really important to all of us, but we cannot think that we can just spend our way out of it. We also have to start saying everyone is accountable to us getting our communities safer again.
So you're on record saying you believe the city should get back to 1,400 police officers.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we need to look at public safety as the totality, how we respond, how we need more tools in the toolbox. So we do need a third agency that is more responsive to mental health and addiction, so that the police department can be more in second position on those calls, but they still need to be at those calls to make sure that the situation is safe. They are part of the solution. Currently, we've just been asking them to be all of the solution, and that's not working.
So how do you get back to 1,400 officers without seeking new revenue, given that the mayor has already indicated there is a need for new revenue in 2025 because of the anticipated increase in labor costs?
Not at the police department level. I mean, I think we do need to look at other departments and see if we are getting if we're really in line with where the services we're receiving are what we're paying for. Our recruitment efforts are going to be really important, but we have to change the relationship that we have with our law enforcement officers. And I know that I have over 2 decades of both sitting on the North Precinct Advisory Council, being the outgoing president. I've built professional relationships within those agencies, and I have personal relationships. We need to do our work to really be at the table with them in a way that respects their right to collectively bargain. We need to get the police department to be working under a new union contract. Without that, we're not able to actually have some of those other conversations right now.
Is that a legitimate, actual, achievable number though, 1,400, given there are police departments across the country that are legitimately having trouble keeping a police force fully staffed at the numbers that their chiefs would like?
No, but it's a stretch goal.
1,400 is not an achievable number, to be clear.
Not in the next couple of years, for sure not. We've lost over 400 officers since my opponent has taken office. And, when he came in and he said the defund, and now he's saying, oh no, I really like the cops. I get along great with them. It's that seesaw back and forth. You have to put in the time and effort over years and years to build up that relationship. And it's going to take us a long time to get back to where we need to be.
RV lots are a part of this whole equation. This has been an area where there's been a lot of those dilapidated RVs that have shown up. Do you believe that RV lots are a solution in this city? Because they haven't been in Ballard in the past.
Well, we don't have them. We're trying to get one just on the south side of the Ballard Bridge. The piece I really like about the RV lot is we know that so many of these RVs, when someone moves out, they just get cycled back into this system. And there's people who create this criminal enterprise in renting these things out and then forcing people to do illegal activity to pay for their rent. And a lot of these RVs are not RVs that anyone should be living in. And so that RV lot program, when someone moves into more housing and stable housing, we're going to start destroying and taking those RVs off the market. And so I think that's a piece that's going to be really important, because right now these things just get cycled back through and we see them pop up again.
So a lot of ideas, but it also sounds like you believe in the quote-unquote austerity budget, like the city, if you take over, not going to spend a ton more money, not going to create a new tax to pay for some of these things.
Chris, austerity is not the term I would give to the billions and billions of dollars our city budget's at. Our budget has grown over 40% in the last 17 years. Now, a lot of it is important, the growth. We were the fastest growing city for 12 of the last 13 years. So of course our budget's going to grow. We're really tackling some big issues. So it is not that we shouldn't ask our citizens to pay for important things, but to say that it's an austerity budget, I push back against.
There's nothing you can really do about new construction, but that factors into some of these projections, right? I'm sure you've seen these numbers that construction is slowing. The cranes that we have seen over the last decade in Seattle are not as prevalent as they used to be. So if you are elected and if the levy is approved, the housing levy, I mean, is there anything you can do from a city council perspective to try and get construction back moving again, especially when interest rates are what they are right now?
Well, you know, the area where the city has the most ability to affect that is with the permitting process and expediting that, and really to make sure that we are not adding an extra cost by time. And it's true, I mean, interest rates are at a place right now where it's just more expensive to finance these projects, but they are happening. But we're also seeing, you know, a somewhat of a slowing, though we're still a growing city. We've just grown at such a fast pace. And there's the other piece, and I'm so thankful that the state actually took up housing this last year, because what was happening in our city, in Seattle, was we were taking more of the growth than should have been spread out regionally, if not in the whole state. And these housing bills actually start putting some pressure on those smaller municipalities around us to share in the growth.
I find there's some irony with a Seattle Times list that was put out. They asked every candidate very early on in the process about top priorities. Clearly, public safety is your top priority. But in this list of 8 things, you put as your lowest priority parks, public spaces, environment. And here we are in a public park.
Well, this property is part of SDOT. So it's not part of the Parks Department. But it is really important.
It's a public space, though.
It is a public space, for sure. And it's not that I don't care about those areas. That's not where we're having the most concern and crisis in our community. I would love not to talk about homelessness and public safety right now. I'm a very positive person in my own personal life. Most people who know me, that's true. But these issues are really serious. And so I'm also going to be really honest where I'm going to put my attention. It doesn't mean that our environment as a whole is not important, because it very much is.
So the endorsement game, right?
Right.
Everybody's got their endorsements. The stranger in the primary endorsed your opponent.
Right.
But also said he was the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
That you agreed on a lot of different things. So how are you different than Dan Strauss, the incumbent?
Well, first off, I told the stranger they were full of so I'm a little different that way.
We'll fix that in post.
Yeah. You know, and they both loved it and laughed about it, and also pushed back on that, right? You know, Dan has been such a windsock, a political windsock. I mean, his voice is either non-existent at the city council about really important issues. He just tries to keep his head down so that he can get through to the next election cycle. You know, he's a career politician that way. Or he just flip-flops. And that's not who I am. I feel I'm at a place in my life where I'm confident and comfortable saying the difficult things, naming the difficult things. You know, maybe it's because I come from hospitality, but not just hospitality. I come from the bar sector. And not only do I love being of service, but I know how to toss someone on their ass too, when they're not acting as they should in the community. And we need to start actually having that accountability back in for all of us. These folks, I care about the folks who are unhoused. I really do. And they have a responsibility to the greater community as well. And they need to understand that they need to start taking some of the services that we are offering them. That it is not perfect. I understand the solutions aren't perfect. But they owe us something as well, right? We're all trying. And so that's where I'm going to come from. I'm definitely going to ruffle some feathers.
city politics can be a blood sport, especially on issues involving homelessness and drugs. Are you ready to put yourself through this?
I mean, I'm already, 7 months in. I've been doing what I set out to accomplish, earned the Seattle Times endorsement, got through the primary to the general. I'm out fundraising an incumbent. I'm knocking on doors every day. I'm listening. So yeah, I'm ready. I mean, I come from Seattle. Seattle made me. So if I'm not right for it, then we did a poor job of making me the man I am.
Well, Pete, thank you for sitting down with me, although this hasn't been the most comfortable on my end.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah.